The Pittsburgh Steelers did not have Alex Highsmith in week 3 against the New England Patriots, and the defense played well. And that's nothing against Alex Highsmith. It's really not. I think Alex Highsmith is a great player, but I think the Steelers are in trouble. And I think that they have some issues that need to be addressed on both sides of the football. And those issues need to be addressed right now. It cannot wait. You can't sit around saying, we'll just ignore the nose tackle position. We'll just ignore tackle in general on offense. We'll just ignore an aging Isaac Seumalo or the fact that we can't run the football whatsoever. We'll just ignore that there is no real wide receiver 2 and that the 7 tight ends that we were supposed to use this season are not turning into the useful options that we thought that they were going to be. We'll just ignore it all and hope for a Super Bowl run because that works. It doesn't. The Steelers have some issues, more issues than anybody expected, to be really honest. And they could probably use some additions, probably not many subtractions, but they've already started making some changes. And Alex Highsmith being out let us see 2 other possibilities. And again, I'm not saying that you get rid of somebody after injury, especially somebody as good as Alex Highsmith. What I'm saying is that maybe the door opens a little bit for the Steelers to consider something. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbein. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-1. They sit tied for first place in the AFC North. Things are good. Life is good. Their defense finally clicked. 5 turnovers against the New England Patriots saved them from a disastrous day because more than one of those turnovers were in the red zone. One of them was on the goal line, and the Steelers were looking at it going, this is going to be a bad day. We are going to give up 30 points once again. And, well, we will be on a run historically that is atrocious. Our offense can't get much going. After week 1's dominance, it quickly turned into, remember the Pittsburgh Steelers? Yeah, I forgot. They don't play offense. Not well, at least. And that's not what happened. The Steelers scored 21 points. Rule of thumb in the NFL is that if you score more than 20 and you hold a team to less than 20, well, you win. And that's the expectation every single week for every single team. The Steelers did that, and their offense did just enough, but their defense did way more than enough. TJ Watt had 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble. Cam Hayward has a forced fumble and a batted pass. Nick Herbig has a sack and probably many, many assists on other great plays in this game, because if you watch the tape, well, Nick Herbig did a lot of really, really good things. And so surprisingly, did 2 other names. The Steelers had Jack Sawyer out there for a lot of the depth time. And then they had DeMarvin Leal out there for a shockingly large amount of time. And yeah, both of those guys actually played pretty okay. You look at the tape and neither one of them stood out as a sore thumb. Jack Sawyer is coming along quite nicely, especially for a guy that you go back to the preseason and the summer and we're talking about, maybe he needs a year. Maybe he needs some time to develop because maybe he's not up to speed. He's not athletic enough, and he needs to build that strength and that power before you can sit him down and view him as any potential future starter or really key depth player for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Now you look at him and say, valuable number 3. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. And the Steelers could use options, and they have them. Jack Sawyer is one of them. DeMarvin Leal didn't even make the roster. This guy was not supposed to be on the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025, and then a week 2 injury to Alex Highsmith happened, and here he is, back on the 53-man roster, and surprisingly did quite well in a role of, hey, stop the run. You don't have to get to the quarterback. That's not your job. That's also not what you're good at. But you did pretty decent shutting down Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson and Travion Henderson. You did okay. And don't get me wrong, New England's offensive line isn't the greatest thing in the world. New England's offense isn't the greatest thing in the world. We can't take one game for Oh, there it is. That's the justification that everyone needed for the Pittsburgh Steelers to say they have enough outside linebacker options. But I think what it showed us is that Nick Herbig is very good and only getting better. TJ Watt might be back, hopefully. All Steelers fans are praying. Everybody in the Steelers organization is praying harder. And if the Steelers have two guys that are starter quality and two backups that are pretty good, then maybe it opens the door for a conversation. That's all this is a conversation. Again, I'm a massive Alex Highsmith fan. He had 8 tackles and a sack in week 1 against the New York Jets. I mean, one of those were a tackle for loss. He came into week 2 before he got injured. He had another tackle. You're looking at it going, this is a guy that over the years has been really, really productive when he's on the field. Alex Highsmith is a starter. He's worth every penny when he's healthy. Every single penny that they paid him, Alex Highsmith is worth when healthy. But he's missed a lot of time in his NFL career, and he's missed a lot of time in the last 2 seasons, and he's missing a lot of time right now. And you got to start looking at it going, how much more time can he miss before the value of him and his position and his role does not exceed the need that maybe you can get in return? Because I think we're getting dangerously close to that. If Alex Highsmith is out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, which that's the expectation, Nick Herbig has 2 to 3 weeks. One of them is the bye week, but he gets a chance to sack Carson Wentz, and then probably Jake Browning if he keeps the job, and then Joe Flacco if he keeps the job. And if he does well enough in those 3 games, why would the Steelers look at this as anything other than we have a guy? We have a dude next to TJ Watt. He's really good. I talked to Terrell Austin last season, and he told me that Nick Herbig was ready to take that step, that massive leap from year 1 to year 2. Year 2 to year 3 is when guys really take off. Herbig's been learning from TJ Watt, which probably means that he's got some knowledge from JJ Watt. And he fits perfectly into this defense. He's shown his ability to be a pass rusher, and he's working on his ability to stop the run. And DeMarvin Leal and Jack Sawyer are guys that specialize in stopping the run. Now, here is the issue that you run into if you were to consider an Alex Highsmith trade. If you were to say, we need a defensive tackle, let's package Alex Highsmith, the 2nd and the 3rd round pick, send him to New York for Dexter Lawrence. Send him to wherever for an offensive tackle on either side because neither of them are playing well. Go get a wide receiver from wherever. You run into the problem of if TJ Watt, who has also been dealing with injuries over the last couple of years, does get hurt, or if Nick Herbig, who already had a hamstring injury earlier in the preseason, gets hurt. You do not have another guy who can start, who's starter quality at your most important position on defense, because the Steelers value outside linebacker more than they value any position on the field defensively. Those are the guys. You create the pass rush, you create the run stuff, you eliminate lanes, and you make life easier for the secondary. That is your job. You are essentially the backbone of the defense. The defense lives and dies off of how good you play. Ask TJ Watt. Better yet, ask anybody who's been on a Pittsburgh Steelers roster in the 12 games that TJ Watt has missed and the 11 of them that they've lost. It's not great. It's not great at all. So if you get rid of Alex Highsmith, you're left with nobody. Jack Sawyer might develop into that. He might develop into a guy that you can put on the field all the time and feel good about. But right now he's a 4th round rookie and he's still developing like a 4th round rookie would. Then you have DeMarvin Leal, who didn't make the roster and has had one good game for sure, but just one good game. And one good game in 4 years is not a place that many people want to be. It's not a place you can trust. So you're out of options if either of those guys get hurt, Nick Herbig or TJ Watt. Again, The NFL is a risk reward type of league. You got to risk it to make sure that you got an opportunity to make bigger things happen than where you're at right now. And the Steelers might be nearing a point where they have to consider that because their defense looked good for one game. What if they don't look good for a second? What if the offense is bad, down real bad, and there is no options? You come back from Ireland, your defense allows 22 points, and you can't score 23. What's up, AST Nation? I've teamed up with DraftKings. The next great touchdown is coming. You can bet on it. And the best way to do so is through DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers who bet just $5 get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live on in-progress games right as they happen. Then use your bonus bets to stay in on the action with DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. And don't worry, if sports betting is not yet available in your state, you're fine. You can still join in on all of the fun with DraftKings daily fantasy sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. New customers bet $5. That's $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Sign up using my promo code ALLSteelers and get in on the action today. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Your offensive line continues to be atrocious, and your wide receiver core continues to go backwards when you're hoping it goes forwards. I mean, you have a whole week to figure some stuff out, but that's a whole week that you should be making phone calls. And in those conversations, you got to ask who's available. Who are you willing to make available to make a move that maybe benefits your team in a different position, a different area? Where do you have excess? The outside linebacker position is one that stands out for sure. And you run a risk. Maybe that risk is worth it, depending on what you can get. I don't know what you could get for Alex Highsmith, but I would guess it's a pretty decent amount. I mean, he's 28 years old. He just turned 28. He's still under contract, and he's a starter. Alex Highsmith is a bona fide top end, one of the best in the NFL starter. I think this guy is a top 10 outside linebacker when healthy. The Steelers don't ever want to get rid of that. But again, it's a conversation that everybody must have at all times of who is available and who's not. I was told many times by NFL GMs, I'm trying to replace you for cheaper. Always. Always. Okay, this is a prime situation here. Prime example of where that could come into play. I like Alex Highsmith. I think he's a very talented player. And I think he's got a bright future in the NFL. I think he might have a bright future in Pittsburgh. But he's injured a lot. The Steelers need an outside linebacker to stay healthy. They need all of their outside linebackers to stay healthy. And they have other positions of need that have emerged rather quickly this season that maybe you just take into consideration. That's all I'm saying. It's a conversation, a couple of phone calls that I think are worth making for Omar Khan, and maybe nobody wants them. Maybe a couple of people do. And you never call and say, hey, Alex Highsmith's available. What can we get for him? That's a bad conversation to have. It's a bad way to start things. You're not giving up Alex. You're not looking to move on from Alex Highsmith. What you're doing is calling the New York Giants, or it's so tough to think of the Houston Texans, anybody with excess wide receiver help, and saying, hey, what are these guys available for? Okay, great. What if we start the negotiations here and see if it leads into a conversation that includes a player? And if it does, then you go from there. But you're never calling saying, we're trying to get rid of this guy, because you don't get rid of starters, not good ones. Alex Highsmith's a good one. But you do have the conversation, the consideration that maybe there are bigger needs on this team, and Nick Herbig is good enough, because I think he is. We'll see what happens. But right now, when the Steelers are in a weird place where they just won, but it doesn't really feel like the win that everybody wanted it to be, it's time for some weird conversations as well. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of Steelers to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. As always, find all my work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. And with that said, I'm in Ireland. I'm going to go enjoy it for a couple of hours, but I will see you guys on the flagship show later, live from Dublin. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.